At this point, 20 days into the Trump administration, I think we can, with clear eyes, get a pretty good picture of what's to come. I think we can see the philosophy, the directionality, and the plans of, I don't know if we should call it the Trump administration or maybe perhaps the Tusk. Let's call it the Tusk administration, because it's clearly both Trump and Musk at this point. And this administration is really, as far as I can tell, being set up, and this doesn't mean that everybody in it has agreed to this vision, but overall the directionality of the administration seems to be a sort of extension of the coup, an extension of the insurrection that Trump attempted more than 4 years ago. And what do I mean by that? I mean that 30 plus days into the administration, we can see clearly in front of us a very aggressive and rigorous attempt to ransack and dismantle liberal democracy. And by liberal democracy, I don't mean a democracy ruled by liberals. I mean the traditional sense of our constitutional democracy, held together by a system of checks and balances, a balancing of the powers of the federal, legislative, and judicial branches. Already at this early stage, Trump has ignored upwards of 6 or 8 court rulings, particularly as they relate to Doge and the vicious slashing of funds for USAID, but also for domestic spending programs. Numerous courts have ordered these policies to be reversed, and as of yet, most of them have not been. It looks like the administration is simply going to ignore the courts. And the devastation of this is beyond, in some ways, rational comprehension. I mean, just the executive orders carried out by Tusk to dismantle our foreign aid programs, particularly in Africa, and more particularly having to do with assistance to people with HIV, malaria, and other life-threatening diseases. We're talking upwards of 20 million people whose lives have been suddenly thrown into the fire with no access to the drugs and the care necessary for living. This is as Musk leaps up and down with his fucking chainsaw at CPAC, the light covering his face as he shoots his arm up in a something like a Nazi salute. What's happening here is the beginning of a total evisceration of a constitutional democracy. Of course, those funds that have been cut to USAID and domestic programs were already apportioned by Congress and are supposed to be under the purview of Congress according to our Constitution. It's Congress that is the pocketbook and that spends the money. It's not the executive branch. But the executive branch has decided that they are now more powerful and do not even need to answer to the legislative branch nor the judicial branches. So they're just going to power through willy-nilly with their militant disregard for human life. But the picture is bigger than that. What we really have taking place is an attempt to roll back, and it's a very well thought out and well prepared attempt to roll back our country to about where we were in, like 1952, or earlier than that, probably the early 40s, to be accurate, because what we see is an attempt to undo the New Deal of FDR and the Great Society of LBJ and all of the incremental and essential programs that have lifted people out of poverty and have begun to create some semblance of equality and justice in this country. Project 2025, which was released to the public and everybody can read, in which Trump disavowed, obviously, in a dishonest way, is now the paradigm for Trump's policies. Roll back everything. Make America great again means make America like it was in about 1940. And worse than that, and I think even more profound than that, sort of in terms of reversing policies unconstitutionally by the thrust of an authoritarian executive, lawless executive administration, and a lawless, unelected, unaccountable billionaire apparently in charge of the entire pocketbook of the country. The bigger picture is the real thing that's happening, and we have to keep our eye on the ball. And what's really happening, and this you can understand everything that's happening, all of the decisions, all of the policies, all of the firings of generals and the firings of inspector generals, all of the firings of government workers, all of the destruction of domestic and foreign aid programs. All of this has to do with creating a smokescreen, on the one hand, so that we're supposed to believe that there's this great calculated attempt to make American finance lean and accountable. Get rid of the waste, the fraud, and the abuse. That's the smokescreen. That's the joke. Of course, if you add up all of these cuts to things like USAID and the domestic programs and the funding for cancer research and the funding for AIDS research and the funding for childhood disease research, it's massive cut to university funding, to laboratories, to medical funding, to the National Institute of Health, etc., etc. That's the smokescreen, to make it look like the government is trying to produce something looking like accountability and something like honest accounting. But what's really happening is a slashing of all programs that help ordinary and working people. That's the real program. And you can go and watch the town hall from, I believe it was yesterday, in Georgia, in a county that Trump won by 65%. You can watch the town hall with our Republican congressman, and you can see the incredible anger, the fury, the discontent, not of liberals, but of regular working people, most of whom in that demographic are not liberals or Democrats, but are conservative Republicans. The fury, you can just go watch this online. Put in town hall, I think it's Roswell, Georgia. And It's about an hour and a half long. And if you just watch this, you get a sense of what's going to happen on the public sentiment side of things, because people are catching on. They're understanding, even those who voted for Trump, what's actually happening, which is a total dismantlement of our public health, of our public well-being, of all of the programs that have been carefully put into place decades upon decades upon decades. And this will eventually include Medicaid, probably Medicare, Social Security. But right now they're targeting less controversial, although very controversial things, like the NIH, like funding programs, like food stamps, like Meals on Wheels, like veterans' health programs. They're going after any and all programs that help working, ordinary people and poor people. That's the real goal here. It's the real goal behind all of this smokescreen bullshit and all of the performativity of crazy, maniacal, sick Elon. Behind all of that is a real program. And the real program is a massive wealth transfer from the poorest, the most destitute, the most hardworking people in this country to the billionaire ruling class. And that's what this administration is seeking to accomplish. They have one major goal, and you will see them pursue this in every policy and in every piece of legislation and in every executive order. They're going to give you a smoke screen. The smoke screen is going to be DIY, which they don't even know what that is. It's going to be critical race theory. It's going to be it's going to be the woke virus. That's all a smoke screen. It's all bullshit. It's all a game. Behind that is a very concerted attempt. And again, you will see this in every bill, in every policy. You'll see it in 2 or 3 months in the new tax bill, which is going to give even more money to the wealthiest people in this country. And they're going to talk about the budget and the need to slash programs that help people in order to bring down the deficit. But they're not going to bring down the deficit. They're going to use that as an excuse, the slashing of funds that help people, that save people's lives on massive scales. That's the smokescreen. Behind that is what they're really doing, which is they're going to pass a massive tax relief bill for the wealthiest people in the country. This entire thing is a transfer of wealth from poor people, working people, ordinary people, to billionaires. And that's why Elon Musk is in charge of the whole fucking program. And that's why he isn't going anywhere. And that's why this administration might as well be called the Tusk administration. There's really two men. They both care about the same thing. They're both invested in the same things. It is all about completely gutting the safeguards of our democracy, where ordinary people have a say, where ordinary people have some level of policy that responds to their needs. Keep in mind, more than 50% of our people live paycheck to paycheck. It's those people that will suffer more, and it's already happening, and it's why there's rage, even in Republican counties, at town halls, as people are sniffing what this is actually about, which we've, of course, known. Everyone has known, or not everyone. Many of us have known this is what was going to happen anyways. Here's the thing. As this program to dismantle democracy and to eviscerate the balance of powers under the Constitution and to transfer wealth from poor and working people who already have no wealth to the wealthiest people in the country, keep in mind that there's another game being played. And the game is engineered to make ordinary people like you and me feel powerless. That we can't do anything. That This is just a assault. It's drinking from a fire hose, as they say. But that's the lie, because things on the grassroots level are starting to change. Things are happening. People are talking. People are showing up for town halls. People are pissed. Trump's approval rating is already sinking down to 45%, which is extraordinarily low during this honeymoon period, a month into the presidency. Things are happening. I know a lot of you and a lot of people feel that we're powerless and there's nothing you can do. And I've spoken to so many friends and so many family members and so many colleagues who say, I don't want to talk about this right now. There's nothing we can do. And that's exactly what they want you to feel as they eviscerate our beautiful country and all that it stands for. And so I beg you to write to your congressmen, to call them, to go out to town halls, to speak with people that you disagree with. You can speak to them in civil and loving ways, but make your disagreement known and clear. Do your research. Post online. If there is a meaningful, well-organized protest, go to it. This is the moment when things begin to happen, because already people are smelling the shit stink of what this administration is. They see the oligarchy and the authoritarian system that is now being enacted in front of our eyes in incredibly obvious ways. So we'll leave it there for now. I have a lot more to say. I really want to talk about how we can respond to the situation, but it's super important to keep in mind and to do your research and to let everybody you know that what's really happening here is two things. It's a dismantlement of our democracy as we have known it for hundreds of years by a evisceration of the balance of powers between the branches. But the bigger purpose that serves is the creation of an oligarchical system that will be totally run by and for the Elon Musks and the other vampires of our society. And this is the time over the next few months when working, regular, ordinary people, poor people, middle-class people raise their voices and say, no fucking way.